Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I think I've got a bit of a problem. There's way too many MacBooks on my desk right now, but I will tell you this. The M2 MacBook lineup is now complete with the addition of the 15-inch MacBook Air. And this is actually fulfilling Steve Jobs' vision from 1997. Let me explain. Right now, the MacBook lineup is the strongest that it has been ever. But the reason why this particular lineup is so strong actually goes back more than 25 years. Back to when Steve Jobs was brought back to Apple right before the turn of the millennium. I'm talking about this.
So we went back to Business School 101. What do our customers want in our products? What kind of products do they want? They wanted consumer products and they wanted pro products. But they also wanted two different kinds of each one, desktop and portable.
This strategy became known as Apple's 4-quadrant grid, and it's been taught in business schools for the past 25 years. Of course, it's been adapted many times, but right now I think it applies extremely well to Apple's MacBook lineup. That marketing tactic from 25 years ago saved Apple at the turn of the millennium, and now it's given us the best MacBook lineup of all time. Now, before we get into this, a quick disclaimer. If you're using this as a source to find information about which MacBook to buy, I found the best prices that I could for all of these MacBooks on the internet, and I put them in the description. So if you're buying one, that's where you'll find the best price. So today, let's go over why this lineup works so well and how to pick which one is right for you. But first, a word from today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Trend Micro's Premium Security Suite, which offers complete device and identity protection across PC, Mac, phones, and tablets. Protect your new Mac with Premium Security Suite, fully equipped with 24/7 support, a secure VPN for public Wi-Fi, ID security dark web monitoring, simple and secure password management, a personal help desk for all things technical, and maximum security through VPN Proxy 1 on up to 10 devices. Trend Micro is easy to set up and use. Just pick your preferences and choose what folders you want to protect. And it's easy to use too. There's even a toolbar shortcut on macOS to easily launch Trend Micro antivirus or toggle features. Plus, VPN Proxy 1 gives you complete control over your device's security by blocking malicious websites and encrypting all of your important data. Personally, I like Trend Micro's easy-to-use and non-intrusive design. To learn more about Trend Micro Premium Security Suite, check out the link in the description below. A big thanks to them for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the video. Now, before you write that comment, and I know a lot of you already have, yes, I am aware that I'm missing one, and it's right here. It's the 13-inch M2 MacBook Pro. This is an interesting device because it is the one little curveball in the current MacBook lineup that I can't quite figure out. My best guess would be that this is just a holdover from the previous generation, much like the fact that Apple still sells the M1 MacBook Air. Now, I'm not gonna bore you a ton with benchmarks, but here's a graph. As you can see, the M2 MacBook Pro offers very slightly more performance than the M2 MacBook Air, and that's thanks to the fact that it has a fan. But that 9% extra CPU performance now comes at a $200 cost thanks to the MacBook Air's recent price decrease. So as much as I already thought that this MacBook was a little redundant, now that is even more the case. Whatever it is that you want to do with a new MacBook, you've got more choices than ever before, and especially in the $1,000 to $2,000 price bracket, which is something that I think Apple realized they really needed to give more attention to. If you go back in time 6 years or so, you could get a very underpowered MacBook Air for $1,000. You could get an underpowered dual-core 13-inch MacBook Pro for $1,000 to $2,000, or if you needed any amount of power, you were going to be out $2,300 or more for a 15-inch. But now you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a small screen without a huge price tag or a large screen without a huge price tag. And you can have a small screen without sacrificing performance. And the pricing ladder, on its face at least, isn't that complicated either. $1,100, $1,300, $2,000, $2,500. Pretty simple. But as you might imagine, things are a little bit more complicated than that because that only really takes into account the new machines and the base models thereof. There's a lot that we could get into, but the first place that I want to start is how this 15-inch fits into the mix. Now, number one it's the same price as that 13-inch M2 MacBook Pro. Now, as I mentioned before, sure, you can get 9.7% more CPU performance, or you could have this. I would pick this every day of the week, no question. But the 15-inch MacBook Air is actually a better deal than you might have realized, because that $1,299 model comes with the 10-core GPU, which is optional on the 13-inch, and it comes with the 35-watt dual-port USB-C power adapter as standard. And again, on the base model 13-inch, that'll cost you an extra $20. So if you actually match these two things spec for spec, you're only paying an extra $80 to go to the 15-inch model. Now, whether you care about those extra 2 GPU cores or the better power adapter, that's up to you. But the 15-inch is a very, very good value. And that couldn't be more true than for people who have previously been forced into buying things like the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I mentioned this in my review of the 15-inch MacBook Air, but I know a ton of people who they just said, no, a 13-inch laptop is too small, I need more room, and they ended up buying a 15 or 16-inch MacBook. Now you can get that screen size without that massive price tag. So Apple might honestly have just cost themselves a few 16-inch MacBook Pro sales, but I think they're gonna make it up in the long term because this is going to sell like crazy. And if it doesn't and they discontinue it, I'm gonna be mad. But I think there is a very difficult choice, and that is between the 15-inch Air and the 14-inch Pro. See, the MacBook Pro 14 might just be the best laptop Apple has ever made. In the past, you always had to choose between size and performance, but that's no longer the case. You can buy a 14-inch MacBook Pro with the exact same hardware as the 16-inch. The only sacrifices you're going to make is thermal. I mean, it's the same chips in a smaller package. It's gonna run hotter. And of course, battery life. But you also save $200, so I would call that a pretty even trade. And now with the 15-inch MacBook Air, you have basically the same thing. I ran my performance figures and found that the 13 and 15-inch perform within literally like 1% of each other in most cases, so it's just a preference. Think about this lineup like the iPhone. There's the regular, the Plus, the Pro, and the Pro Max. It's the same philosophy here. I love this symmetry, you know, the philosophy of marketing from the late 90s mixed with the iPhone mirrored in the MacBook. So how do you pick between these? Well, it can be a little bit challenging and there are things you need to know along the way. The first of which is when you don't buy base models, you have to be careful. Now on the M2 devices, there's a pretty well-known caveat with the base models. If you buy one of these things with 256 gigs of storage, they only have a single NAND chip, and that basically cuts your SSD speeds in half. I would also argue that 256 gigabytes is borderline inadequate. Apple, guys, it's time for you to increase your base storage to 512. I think people really would like that. But for now, if you do want to go up to 512, you're going to get a faster SSD and of course double the storage, but that's going to come at a eye-watering price of $200. And that brings the price of the 15-inch MacBook Air up to $1,499. Now, things are gonna start getting dangerous here because if you add another $200 to go to 16 gigs of unified memory, you'll find yourself in a weird place. For $1699, you could get an M2 MacBook Air, whereas for $1999, you could get a 14-inch M2 Pro, also with the same RAM and storage. Except that, it gets a little bit more complicated because a quick search on Amazon, I found this one for $1749. That's just $50 more than the MacBook Air with the same spec. That's a really tough choice. In fact, I gotta get these out of the way. Personally, I think that the benefits are leaning towards the 14-inch MacBook Pro, but keep in mind that the 15-inch only just came out and there's already sales on it. Right now on Amazon, you can get $100 off both of the default configurations. So the base model is $1199 and the 8512 config is $1399. So for me, it all comes down to dollars and cents. If you're making that choice, I would pick the MacBook Air 512 on sale for $100 off. I would skip the RAM upgrade because if you start spending even just a little bit more, you're gonna get close enough to where you might as well buy a 14-inch MacBook Pro. As much as I love the 15-inch MacBook Air, it's really only in that very narrow price window between $1199 if you can find them on sale and no more than $1,500. That's where this thing is best suited. But now let's talk about the 16-inch because it's kind of the elephant in the room, I think. So the 16-inch I think is a tough sell because the 14-inch is just so good. It's powerful and it's compact. The 16-inch is undoubtedly the most powerful MacBook ever made. However, it comes with a price that you pay in weight and in money, but it's not an expensive upgrade. It's $200. It's just a matter of, do you want to carry this thing around with you? If it were up to me, I would spend that $200 on a monitor and dock my 14-inch when I'm at home. But for some people, the 15-inch is just necessary. If you're doing your work on the device, whether you're at home or work or traveling or whatever, and you can justify the size and bulk of this thing, yeah, the 16-inch is great. I just don't think there's that many people out there that need something this large. And the reality of the MacBook lineup is there's a lot of overlap. As much as Apple likes to give you these different categories and options, you can spec up the base model 13-inch MacBook Air to be more expensive than this 14-inch MacBook Pro if you wanted to. You can mix and match your preferences to suit whatever you need. I mean, honestly, look, I look at this from a maximizing value perspective, so I always am trying to upgrade to the next tier. If you're buying a MacBook Air, are you adding too many upgrades to the point where you should just be spending your money on a 14-inch MacBook Pro or even a 16-inch, that sort of thing? But at the end of the day, there are some people who will not give a shit about performance and will just say, give me the smallest laptop possible with the most amount of storage. And I don't care if I could get a 14-inch MacBook Pro for the same price. And if that's you, well, congratulations, your life just got a lot easier. But for the rest of you, I have a feeling the choice is never that simple. So with this very compelling pyramid of MacBooks, I'm curious to know your thoughts. What do you think holds the best value? A 13, a 14, a 15, or a 16? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.